Good evening, everybody. You hear that? Now broadcasting. Right. Good evening, everybody. My backdrop is a little bit different tonight, but you're welcome. Garth Nielsen-Vold, Senior Business Manager with Farm IQ. Welcome to this phase 3 of our winter feeding webinar. So the first winter feeding webinar was around the stock rotation planner. The second winter feeding webinar was around the feed budget. And then the third tonight is around the feed planner. So I'll explain the difference there. But yeah, welcome everybody. If you haven't been to one of these webinars yet, what I'll do is I'll go through and I'll show you what we're talking about tonight, the topic being the feed planner. And then throughout the webinar, if you send through any questions and I'll answer them as I can. So that's how these webinars work. So look, please send us through any questions you like. I will absolutely do my best to answer them. And yeah, we'll see how we go. So I'm coming to you from my first actually trip back down in Wellington after COVID. So geez, got a few things to do down here, which is great to be here. So look, we'll crack straight into it. I'll first try and share my screen. So I'll just share that. Sorry, 1 minute, guys. That one there. So just sharing my screen now. She should come up. But look, just thought I'd start off giving you a bit of so everyone understands the difference between the feed planner that we're looking at tonight and probably more particularly the feed budget. So the best way I can describe this is the feed budget is designed to look at a part of your farm for a select period of time. So the feed budget does not handle animals coming in and out very well. So the options that you'd use the feed budget for would be the likes of a winter crop or a rotation. How many ewes through the winter can you hold on a particular part of the farm? Or you've got a beef unit, and how many steers can you get on for a select period of time? So that's what a feed budget is. The feed planner is designed to look at it can be your whole farm, and it is designed to look at it over a long period of time. So it is commonly, I suppose, what we think of as a feed budget is what we call the feed planner. So I do understand it is a little bit confusing with what we call them, but the feed planner is designed to look at your whole farm or a decent portion of your farm for a long period of time. Okay, so that's what we'll do, and I'll show you that. So hopefully you can all see my screen now. Okay, and what I first want to show you is when we start the feed planner, there's a couple of things that we ideally should set up, okay, because these things flow into it. So one of them is your pasture growth rate. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the pasture growth rates in the system. So I'm going to go Office, Admin, and Settings. Okay, so with every subscription in Farm IQ, you will get some book values of what your pasture growth rates will be based on your region and your farm type. So we'll see how this internet goes. So far, she's pretty slow. So I'm under Settings, and I'm clicking on Preferences. So there we go, everybody. I'm sitting in the middle of Wellington CBD, and our internet is incredibly slow. And I'm going to click on Preferences. Incredibly slow. Can't do much about this, sorry guys. Okay, when we get into the feed planner, she should be a little bit quicker. Okay, because not relying on the internet for that. So if any of you haven't come into this preferences, this is where you can set your pasture growth rates. So I'm just scrolling right down the bottom here, and you'll see this little table, and you've got this predicted line here. And the word predicted might confuse you a little bit, but it is essentially the book value based on your farm setup. Okay, and these are defaulted in there, but you can change them through the edit. Okay, so just be aware, make sure you're happy with what these pasture growth rates are, and then because that will flow through into the feed budget. And the other thing I also just want to check too, make sure you've got all up to date, is your product inventory. So in inventory, we can have total feed on farm. So this is your baleage, this is any grain, any feed that you've got on farm. So I'll just quickly show you this. So I've gone up to office, and it is going to take a long time to load. And it's still loading. Sorry guys, there's nothing I can do about this, unfortunately. We're plugged into the fastest internet we've got. And when I click on feed, so hopefully everyone's seen this. If you haven't, FarmIQ can hold all farm inventory, so chemical, feed, fertilizer, seed, and treatments, and also fuel and under assets as well. Okay, but under here, what I've done is I've gone through and I've added some baleage, some grain, and some maize, and how it's all on farm. Okay, so it is quite important to make sure they are in there, because this inventory does also flow through into your feed planner. Okay, so how do I load the feed planner? Well, I'm going to go to Tools and Calculators, top right, this plus and minuses icon, and then under here, depending on what pack you've got, will depend on how many tools and calculators you've got here. And this is only in the performance and the enterprise packs. Okay, and so there's a whole lot of these. One of these that we're going to look at is the feed planner. So it's important to note this feed planner is only linked with the pasture covers that we record, and it is only linked with the feed inventory. Okay, so it is not linked to any stock, any animals directly. Okay, you've got to populate that, but I'll show you what that means. Okay, and so under here, I'm going to create a feed planner. If you've already created one, you will have a list here of all the plans that you've got set up. But I'm just going to create a new one to show you this tonight. Okay, now the feed plan I'm going to create tonight, just for simplicity, I'm going to keep it relatively simple. But I'm just going to, I've made up a bit of, or given a few numbers around. I've got a very simple system with some breeding ewes, terminal breeding ewes. So we buy in our replacements, and then we're going to finish all our lambs, and we're going to trade some cattle. Okay, so pretty simple system just to show you how it all works. So I'm going to name this, and we're going to go, I don't know, let's go Tuesday webinar. Start date, so I'm going to start this on 1st of June. Okay, and I'm going to end this on 20th of June. But while I'm here, I just thought I'd show you this little shortcut. So if I click on 30th of June 2020, but I want to roll this out a year, the quickest, easiest way is to delete the 0 and write a 1. Okay, now the intervals, we can create whatever we like. My little trick here is to start on the largest interval possible, so it's monthly, because it'll make setting it up so much quicker and easier. Okay, so we're going to go monthly, and then we're going to go pasture cover. Let's start on 1600. Okay, and I'm going to use 120 hectares of our grazing area. Yep, it's a sheep and beef plan. Okay, and that instantly, once I create that, creates my feed planner. Okay, I can always come in here throughout the whole system. When you see this cog looking icon that is settings, So I can come in here and I can change that at any time, including this interval, which I'll do that later. Okay, and this is what the feed planner looks like. So just to give you a really quick overview, I'm going to come back and look at this top section here, but this is kind of what I would call the result of what you're doing below. Okay, so this is the feed graph, so this is going to start populating soon. And then this other tab here, make sure you see it, is your pasture graph, which is already going to populate with a line. Okay, and it's going to populate that line because it's already pulled through the residual covers coming through. Okay, so it is going to populate that line. Sorry, one thing I should also point out here is this top little button here. Is this the monitored plan? Monitored plans update inventory as feed is consumed. So if you click that, what that means is that is going to bring the inventory through, and it is going to bring the pasture covers through. If you untick that, obviously it won't. So depending on how you want to use this in your business, but you could have one monitored plan which looks at your whole farm. Okay, and then you could have a whole lot of other unmonitored plans to run scenarios or just look at a part of your farm without all the integration with the pasture covers and inventory. Okay, so do with that what you will. For tonight's case, I'm just going to run a monitored plan. Okay, and that's why it's going to integrate. So the way I set these up is I'm going to jump down a little bit, but soon we're going to add all our animals in here. But I'm going to jump straight down to this pasture section. Okay, and I'm going to put in my pasture targets. Okay, and so my targets, I'm just going to populate some numbers in here. And I've got to click in each one, and I'll show you a couple of little shortcuts here soon. Okay, so these are the covers that I want my target to be throughout the year. One thing to note here, when I'm typing that first number and I'm giving it a little bit of time before I type the second. It's just something it's almost just a little bit sticky in the system. It keeps catching me out like that. But you soon get used to it. Like that. And you'll see up the top here, this another line form. And I've got a couple more. It is a little shortcut that you've probably started noticing that little arrow there, but I can't really do it for this because I want my target cover to be different every month. But when we get up the top and start adding animals, you'll see that that actually becomes really quite a useful little function. Okay, so there's my target cover for every month. Okay, and that's all I need to do in this top bit. Okay, this pasture offered column is going to start to populate. It is pulled through the pasture growth from the preferences that I showed you before under office and then settings. Okay, so that's already pulling through. And again, you can change that if you choose. So if this isn't a monitored plan and you disagree with those, you can overwrite those pasture growth tallies numbers. Okay, down here you'll see the total area grazing. So you would have seen in the setup that I had the ability to put in the total area. But also you'll see here that I've got the ability to take feed out or area out of grazing. So I'm just going to do that here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an area for crop. Okay, and I'm going to kick that in from October. So I want to say I'm going to take 20 hectares out in October for the rest of the year, and I'm going to feed that out in winter, for example. Okay, I'm also going to take another area out here for I'm going to shut up some baleage. Okay, and I'm going to do that in September. I'm going to copy that across, and I just want October. So I'm going to do there is I'm going to delete November, and I'm going to copy that deleted across. Okay, so that therefore updates the total grazing area available, because from October I've taken 20 hectares out, and in September I've taken 20 hectares out for 2 months for baleage. Okay, so that's how that total area works. Okay, so you'll start to see this populate soon. Okay, now I'm going to add some animals. Okay, so where do I do that? I do that under here. Okay, so I'm going to start with adding some cattle. And again, if I click on the little plus sign there, it'll give me the ability to add something. So I'm going to add some R1 steers, and I'm going to save that. And then you'll see this little arrow. So this is just something to note, everybody, throughout the whole system, where you see this little arrow here. If you click on it, it'll fold down and open up below. Okay, so that's throughout the whole system. So make sure you keep an eye on things like that. So in June, up the top, this top line here is where we have our tallies. So I'm going to start with 50 animals, and I'm going to copy that across. You'll notice here I'm not putting anything around weight or any, I know these are steers, but there's no opportunity for any gestational or lactational demand or anything like that. So I'll explain that soon. Okay. So I've got 50 animals here, and then October I buy another 40. So in this feed plan, we don't create a purchase of 40. We just change the number to what the tally will be. Okay, and so what I've said is I've opened the year with 50 steers. In October I buy an additional 40, so I'm going to add that to the total tally. And then in February I'm going to start selling some of these. So I'm going to sell 30 of these, and so I've got 60 remaining, and I keep copying across. And then in March, I'm going to sell another 10 animals. Okay, so then I keep copying across. And then in May, I'm going to sell another 30 animals. So that leaves me with 20 animals. And I'm going to copy across. And then in June, I sell everything else. Okay. So you'll see this line here, you might have noticed, hasn't changed yet because I haven't put any demand in here. So what I'm going to say is in June, they're going to consume 8 kilograms of dry matter per head per day. And the system will automatically calculate the total feed. I've just noticed a little bug in there. It's always good when you show this thing, isn't it? So we've got someone in the room that's just noticed that. So we'll click. So this is the amount of kilos I'm going to feed per head per day. Okay, so we're feeding 8 kilos, then 9 kilos. So I'll just go ahead and populate these. And 11 kilos for the rest of the year. I can come in and I can change that to whatever I want. Okay. Then under here, I'm going to add a different feed type to these animals. Okay. Funnily enough, because I click on this little plus sign, okay, and it will come up with this extra box here. Sorry, I might have gone a little bit fast. I'll click on this little plus sign here to add a feed type. Okay, and baleage. Now look, guys, just sorry, and where that baleage came from. So I did purchase it, and let's put a color on it, and it's green. So that bug I've found here, if you're finding that in your system, because this is the demo farm, it might just be on the demo site, not sure. But if you do see that bug in there, but we've got someone in the room that's going to look into that, see if it's in live now anyway. But if you do see that bug and it's not changing, please call support and let us know. Okay, so in baleage fed here, I'm also going to now add kilos of baleage fed per head per day. I hate it with these bugs a found when I'm demoing live, but that's life. Okay, so that will populate total feed. Actually, I might have lied. Sorry about that. That is the total feed per head per day. My bad. Crisis averted. Sorry, guys. I read it wrong. So that is total feed per head per day. Okay. Right. Now we're going to add some more cattle. I'm going to add some R2 steers here now. So all I'm doing is I'm just going ahead and building my feed profile. So with these R2 steers, I've opened with 50 animals. Okay, in October, I'm going to feed them right through. In October, I'm going to add 90 animals. Sorry, another 40. Okay, so I've got the same as my R1s. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to change that. I've got this wrong way around. Okay, and I'm going to make that R1s. Okay, so that's how they work out. Okay. In March here, sorry, I should have added another 120. Copy that across. And for these here, I'm going to give them 5 kilos right across. And in March, I'm going to lift that to 5.5 kilos. Okay, so there's my total steers, and I'm just going to go through and I'm going to populate some sheep nice and quick. But hopefully you're all seeing what I'm doing here and how it can work. Okay, so I'm going to add some ewes. Okay, and I'm going to open with these mixed age ewes at 800. In November, I've said I'm going to buy another 700 ewes, so I'm going to make this number now 1,500. Okay, and before the ram goes out, I'm actually going to cull some down. So I'm going to change this number in February to be 1,100. Okay. And we're just going to feed these some pasture. Copy that across. So this does take a bit of a setup session, hey guys, but once it's set up, it's then live and it's active, and you can change it as you need to. So I'm going to just change these to slightly better reflect what we're actually going to feed them out. And then I'm going to drop this down to 1.4 kilos. Please keep those questions coming through. I don't have any questions coming through yet, so please keep them coming through. So So that will be that. Now with these ewes, what I've noticed here is I've got a bit of a deficit. Okay, so I'm going to start to plug this gap. So one of the values of this feed planner is that it quickly tells you where these gaps are. So with this, I'm going to feed them some maize, and it's purchased maize, and I'm going to make that nice and yellow. Okay, so this maize, I'm going to feed them 200 grams in July, and I'm going to feed them 400 grams in August, and I'm going to wind it back down to 200 grams in September, just to get us through that feed pinch. Okay, so again, you'll see here there's no demand that it's telling me. Okay, so no weights. I haven't gone through with a fine-tooth comb and put in expected deaths or anything like that. I've only put major transactions in there. Feel free if you want to do that. We haven't done it. I haven't done it for this, for simplicity's sake. Now, one thing I thought I'd show you here is, obviously these ewes have some lambs. I just wanted to show you how we can treat pasture lambs versus crop lambs. So this is a bit of an example. I've set up another mob here, or another group of animals, I should say, rather than mob. And I've said, right, at weaning, and it depends. You might want to add these earlier on at, say, docking when you've got a tally, and start to drip feed the feed allocated to them. But in this case, what I've done is I've just said, right, I'm going to start feeding these things from weaning. And I'm going to wean in November. Okay. And I'm going to say I've got 500 lambs, okay, left in my trade mob on my grass-fed lambs. Okay. And then they all come out in February. Okay, where do they go? I'm going to create a mob for those, or another group soon. So I'm going to feed these lambs 1.2 kilos a day. Okay, and now I'm going to add another another mob, and these are going to be my crop lambs. Okay, and this is where I'm going to start at weaning, and I'm going to say at weaning I've got 600 lambs on my crop. Okay, and then in December I've sold 300 of them out, so there's 300 remaining. And then in February, when I pull these lambs out of this lambs mob, or lambs crop, or pasture fed lambs, I'm going to pull them up into here, into my crop lambs. Okay, and that's for March, and then I'm going to start selling them down in April. I've got 250 of them in April. Then I've got none left in May. Okay. And I'm going to feed these. I'm not going to feed them pasture. I'm going to put them straight on crop. Okay, so crop's not showing up here as one of my feeds. But if I click all crops there to show me everything, I'm going to find this one here called a salad, good salad. Right, and it is currently grazed, and I'm going to make this green because I can. Okay, and I'm going to feed these lambs 1.2 kilos right the way through. Okay, again, I can change that. It doesn't matter if you're feeding some out with no animals, it won't calculate total fed, okay? So it won't factor into this total curve here. Okay, so what you can see now, so I've populated all my animals, got all my feed in the system. I then have this pasture graph throughout 12 months. Okay, and I'll show you how we open up that interval soon, but there's my pasture graph. Now you're going to look at this and you're going to say, well, I've got a bit of a, I'm obviously pretty pinched here, so I can come back down and adjust those as required. Okay, with my feed graph, if I click on this one, it's going to show me the amount of feed or feed types I'm going to feed out each month, okay, throughout the year, and it's going to break it down by the colors that I selected. Okay, further down, if I close all these up to keep it nice and tidy, it's going to show me my total pasture offered. So this line before I populated anything under animals up here was blank. So it's going to show me my total pasture offered in kilograms of dry matter per hectare per day. Okay, so obviously if I'm offering 17 kilos and I'm growing 5 kilos, we're going to lose feed out of our system. Hence our pasture graph drops. Okay, because we're consuming more than we're growing, obviously. And then under this inventory, it's breaking down where I've fed that feed. Okay, so if I open all of these up, so what it doesn't do is it won't automatically bring through your open tally, your open inventory. But I know that I had 50 bales at 200 kilos. Okay, so I'm going to populate that total amount of feed in there. Okay. It's the same as all the other ways. And then it's going to take the what I've fed out off the total remaining. Obviously, I've got my numbers wrong there, but it'll default that down so you know how much feed you've got left. Okay. Now, important to note here, just because it's in the feed budget, or this feed planner, it won't take it out of your inventory in your real inventory. This is an isolated feed planner. Okay, so don't expect it to take it out of your real inventory. This is just showing you what you've got available. Okay, and same with your crop here. So I'm going to put in crop we grew. So for example, in November, I had 90 available. Okay, which is showing me how much crop I've got left. Okay, and I'll do that with maize. Now this doesn't flow through to this doesn't flow through to anything up above other than that what's fed out graph. Okay, so here's my total feed by supplement, my total feed by pasture fed out. Okay, and there is the feed planner. So if I want to change those intervals, so I set it up, as I said at the start, by month intervals. Okay, if I want to break that down and get a lot more granular, then I can break it down however I like, even daily if you're so keen. 10-day is quite a common one. And then obviously this allows you to see what that looks like. So have we got any questions coming through? Liv, have you got any questions on your side? I don't see any. Yeah. It obviously means I've covered everything well enough that you don't have questions, I hope. But I doubt it. So please get them through. That's what your 10-day looks like there. Yeah, so are there any questions on that? As I said, just to reiterate, the feed planner is to look at a good portion of your farm, ideally your whole farm for the whole year. and the feed budget is to look at a part of your farm. Now, one thing you might have noticed that I need to bring up is under the pasture covers here, when you see this little grass icon, that is because that is an actual cover come through. Okay, so what I'll, if I show you that here, so I'll record a pasture cover under land, management, pasture covers. Okay, you'll see there's nothing in that 11th to 20th of June block. I'm going to set myself up here again to test the internet. Oh, well, you'll see that anyway. Yeah, look, I think I'm really going to push this internet, but if there's no other questions coming through from that, then yeah, we'll leave it at that. But look, feel free to give either your business manager a call about this or the support desk. Anyone can help you through what this work or how this works and how to make it work. So look, there is a bit of a setup. Obviously, you've seen me do that tonight, but assuming that was my whole farm, you'd set that up once. It's taken me about half an hour on this webinar, and then it's all good to go. Okay, and you can just keep updating it as you go. So I can't even record a pasture cover because the internet's so slow. So look, we'll leave it there tonight. Thanks very much, Pippa. And yeah, please feel free to fire any suggestions or questions through. Cheers, guys. Have you stopped that?
Also, we need to stop recording. See how that. All right, thank you for the expert. Right, cool. Yep, that's awesome.
It's still recording.
Huge image recording.